Hi guys, welcome back to Learn Turkish the Easy Way channel. As promised last time, today we will cover the necessitative mood in Turkish language. So what is necessitative mood? Whenever we say in English, you must, you have to, you need to, or to do something, that's exactly what we mean by necessitative mood. So today we will see how we say must, have to, need to in Turkish language. Okay, so let's first see what we covered so far. In the last 5 classes, we covered 5 different tenses in Turkish language, which is simple present tense, present continuous tense, simple past tense, reported past tense, and future tense. So we are done with those tenses, and there are no more tenses that we have to cover in Turkish language. What else we have to cover? We have also 4 different moods in Turkish language, and the first one of them is necessitative mood, which is basically how to say must, have to, and need to. So let's start and see how we construct sentences, how we construct the necessitative mood out of Turkish verbs. So let me open the next file. Just as a refresher, of course, we also have to remember that all Turkish verbs in infinitive form. Hello Fabiola, welcome back. So just as a refresher, don't forget that all Turkish verbs in their infinitive form always end in mak or mek, and whenever we construct different tenses or moods out of these verbs, we have to use only the root, which means we have to throw away the mak or mek ending before we construct any tense or mood. So of course we will cover 4 possible cases, right? Affirmative, negative, interrogative, and negative interrogative forms of the verb for necessitative mood, as we already did with all other cases. So let's start with the affirmative case, affirmative kind of a form of the necessitative mood. In general, when we talk about necessitative mood, same as with the future tense in the last class, we only have 2 endings. We have either ending malı or meli. Okay, so here we have basically 2 cases. You have to add the verb root first, then you add malı or meli depending on the vowel harmony, which we will see in a while, and then you add only the personal ending, which means basically we have three things to work on in here: the verb, malı meli, and the personal ending. So how do we decide? Just a second, how do we decide? Sorry, let me go back. So when we talk about this is basically the rule, right? I don't know whether you have seen this one or I just clicked it now. So we have basically a verb root, malı meli, and then the personal ending. So how do we decide whether we use malı or meli? It's very simple and much simpler than even the other old tenses that we have covered so far. So there are only 2 possible cases. You only have to look at the last vowel in the root. And whether the root ends in a vowel or a consonant doesn't matter. You only look at the last vowel in the root. So if the vowel is a, o, u, you definitely have to add malı. And if the last vowel in the verb root is e, i, o, u, then you have to add the meli ending. Okay, and that's basically it. Nothing else. So look at the malı examples. For example, here kalmak, kal, which is a, right? The last vowel is a. Therefore, kalmalı. Koymak, koy, koymalı. Aramak, ara, aramalı. And bulmak, bul, bulmalı. All of these examples are examples for the hard consonants a, I, o, u. Therefore, we add the ending malı. For the soft for the soft vowels e, I, o, u. Look at the examples: vermek, ver, vermeli; ölmek, öl, ölmeli; girmek, gir, girmeli; and lastly yürümek, yürü, yürümeli. Now also pay attention to the fact that whenever we add malı or meli ending, the stress is always on the last part of the word, okay, on the last syllable of the word. So you have to pronounce it towards the end. So emphasis and stress has to be towards the end of the word, okay? Kalmalı, koymalı, vermeli, ölmeli, and so on. So this is basically the rule. Very simple. We just pay attention to the last vowel in the verb root, and if it's soft, it's meli. If it's hard vowel, it will be malı. So let's go back now and look at affirmative case here. We have here four. I always use the same verbs as in the previous grammar lessons. So we have four verbs here: to do, to love, to find, and to die. So let's look at the first singular. Okay, ben yapmalıyım, sevmeliyim, bulmalıyım, ölmeliyim. Second person singular: sen yapmalısın, sevmelisin, bulmalısın, and ölmelisin. Third person singular: o yapmalı, sevmeli, bulmalı, and ölmeli. First person plural: biz yapmalıyız, sevmeliyiz, bulmalıyız, ölmeliyiz. Second person plural: siz yapmalısınız, sevmelisiniz, bulmalısınız, and ölmelisiniz. And last, third person plural: onlar yapmalılar, sevmeliler, bulmalılar, and ölmeliler. Okay, so this is basically the affirmative case, and we have only kind of to think about what the last vowel in the root, whether it's a hard vowel or soft vowel, and you have two examples here, two examples for hard vowel and two examples for the soft vowels. So let's now look at the negative form. The negative form of the necessitative mood. So what do we have with here? It's same with the whatever we did with the future tense. You have to add the negation word, ending ma, me to the verb root, right? Then malı, meli, and then the personal ending. Of course, if you add ma, then it requires malı, right? If you add negation ma, that requires malı. If you add negation me, it will definitely require the meli. So it is, you see, it's a vowel harmony. So you continue like mamalı, right? Memeli. That's basically what we have to follow throughout the whole construction. So let's look at the examples again. First person singular. Ben yapmamalıyım. And you see, pay attention to the stress. The emphasis now is on the first syllable. When we say I don't have to do, right, or I mustn't do, the stress here is on the first part. Ben yapmamalıyım, sevmemeliyim, bulmamalıyım, ölmemeliyim. Second person singular. Sen yapmamalısın, sevmemelisin, bulmamalısın, ölmemelisin. Third person singular. O yapmamalı, sevmemeli, bulmamalı, and ölmemeli. First person plural. Biz yapmamalıyız, sevmemeliyiz, bulmamalıyız, and ölmemeliyiz. Second person plural. Siz yapmamalısınız, sevmemelisiniz, bulmamalısınız, and ölmemelisiniz. And the third person plural. Onlar yapmamalılar, sevmemeliler, bulmamalılar, and ölmemeliler. So this is the the negative form of the necessitative mood in Turkish language. The next is, of course, interrogative, how we ask question, right? So let me open that file too. So the third is basically interrogative. That's again same with the future tense structure. What we have is as a base, right? We have the third person basically in the first part, and then we add the question word me. Why only me? Because we only have malı or meli, which necessitates only either me or me. You don't have mu or mu in the question word because you only have malı or meli that requires, based on the vowel harmony, requires only me or me in the question word. And then you add the personal ending. And as always, we have to note that the question words me, me, mu, mu, whatever we have as the question word, they are always written separately from the verb. Okay, don't forget this. It's always written separately. So let's now cover the first based by kind of on person. Let's go by person. So the first person singular is, let me just, okay. So the first person singular is ben yapmalı mıyım, sevmeli miyim, bulmalı mıyım, ölmeli miyim? Second person singular, sen yapmalı mısın, sevmeli misin, bulmalı mısın, ölmeli misin? Third person singular, o yapmalı mı, sevmeli mi, bulmalı mı, and ölmeli mi? First person plural, biz yapmalı mıyız, sevmeli miyiz, bulmalı mıyız, and ölmeli miyiz? Second person plural, siz yapmalı mısınız, sevmeli misiniz, bulmalı mısınız, and ölmeli misiniz? And last, third person plural, onlar yapmalılar mı, sevmeliler mi, bulmalılar mı, and ölmeliler mi? So this is interrogative. Let's now look at the negative interrogative, right? How we ask in the negative form. That's the last form, fourth, right? So what do we have here? Of course, verb root, then the negation ma me, then malı meli, and then separately we have the question word me mi plus personal ending. So let's go with the first singular. Ben yapmamalı mıyım, sevmemeli miyim, bulmamalı mıyım, and ölmemeli miyim? Second person singular, sen yapmamalı mısın, sevmemeli misin, bulmamalı mısın, and ölmemeli misin? The third person singular, o yapmamalı mı, sevmemeli mi, bulmamalı mı, and ölmemeli mi? First person plural, biz yapmamalı mıyız, sevmemeli miyiz, bulmamalı mıyız, and ölmemeli miyiz? Second person plural, siz yapmamalı mısınız, sevmemeli misiniz, bulmamalı mısınız, ölmemeli misiniz? And last one, third person plural, onlar yapmamalılar mı, sevmemeliler mi, bulmamalılar mı, and ölmemeliler mi? Now, of course, this is kind of a malı, right? It's kind of a very confusing to pronounce, but this is also kind of a very prolonged and confusing, even for Turks to pronounce. So it is a very similar structure, right? Similar syllables here, so you can't be confused when you pronounce it. But basically, that's it. That's what we have to struggle with. Okay. So that's basically it for the four possible cases: affirmative, negative, interrogative, and negative interrogative. I have to also two notes in regard to this mood, and these are the following. Now, first of all, the first note is that necessitative mood in Turkish language is used to describe necessity, advice, or probability, the English counterparts of which can be must, have to, right, need to, or should. So we basically have, whenever we use malı, meli, right, we usually mean one of these four, depending on the situation, depending on the context. And of course, for one case it might be really necessity, For other, it might be advice, for example. What is the advice example? For example, you can say you must watch this movie, right? This is an advice. When you say you must watch this movie, this is not necessity but advice to watch. Or when you say you should not eat much, right? Fazla yememelisin. That is advice, not some kind of a must understanding, right? So that's the first note. The second note is that necessity in Turkish can be also expressed through other words, okay, through other three words: zorunda, lazım, and gerek. Gerek here is, by the way, it is the verb gerekmek, okay? There is a verb gerekmek, which means to require, to necessitate. But zorunda and lazım, they are not verbs. What we do with the gerek, we basically use the verb gerekiyor, gerekmek, right? And you see examples below. For example, when I have to hear the examples for only first person plural, we. So bunu yapmak zorundayız. We must do it. Okay. Whenever you say zorunda, it only has one meaning. Okay. It only has meaning of must. So zorunda means a must. There is no advice or any kind of a probability. It's only must. Second, bunu yapmamız lazım. We need to or we have to do it. That's what lazım means. Merhaba Cilat. I don't know whether I pronounce your name correctly. So Cilat, right? Cilat. So whenever we say lazım, it means only kind of a required. Okay, lazım means required or necessitated. So the translation basically will be what? We need to, we have to do it. And last one, bunu yapmamız gerekiyor. We need to or have to do it. It's similar meaning with the above one, with lazım. But look at the structure here. Okay, look at the structure here. When you say bunu yapmak zorundayız, what you have to change to make it for different persons, you have to change the zorundayız part, right? Bunu yapmak zorundayım. Bunu yapmak zorundasın. Bunu yapmak zorunda. Bunu yapmak zorundayız. Bunu yapmak zorundasınız. And bunu yapmak zorundalar. That's how you change based on the pronouns. In regard to lazım, what changes here is only the middle part, right? Yapmamız lazım. So you will say bunu yapmamız lazım. Okay, good. Türkçe'de gibi. Gilat. Okay, Gilat. Hi, Viju. So look at the second part. Bunu, if you want to make this lazım for all persons, let's start with the I. Okay, the first person singular. Bunu yapmam lazım. Okay, benim yapmam lazım. It means it is required to be done by me. Bunu yapmam lazım. Second, you. Bunu yapman lazım. You have to do it, right? For third person singular, bunu yapması lazım. Ali'nin bunu yapması lazım. So Ali has to do it. About we already have the example for we here. Bunu yapmamız lazım. Bunu yapmanız lazım, right? And bunu yapmaları lazım. So if you want to change lazım structure based on person, that's how you change the ending for the verb that you have to, right? Or if you want to say we have to see it, right? Bunu görmemiz lazım. Bunu izlememiz lazım. You have to watch it. We have to watch it. And in the last one, when we use gerek, what you do? Again, we have to change the middle part. Bunu yapmam gerekiyor. Bunu yapman gerekiyor. Bunu yapması gerekiyor. Bunu yapmamız gerekiyor. Bunu yapmanız gerekiyor. And bunu yapmaları gerekiyor. So this is basically all possible cases how you say must, have to, need to, or should. Okay, so we have basically malı meli structure, which is attached exactly into the verb root. The other ones, zorunda, lazım, and gerek, they are written separately. They are different structures. But malı or meli has all these kind of meanings: must, have to, need to, and should. Okay, so malı is the most general way to express those counterparts in English. And again, don't forget that malı meli is attached to the root verb. Okay, they are always go with the root of the verb. But zorunda, lazım, and gerek, we usually use them separately from the, and that's basically the structure that you have below. I didn't give kind of a very broad explanation to these three, but I gave you examples so that you understand that we also have zorunda, lazım, and gerek, how we change the structure to make it different persons. So let's look now at a couple of examples before we finish our lesson. You can also ask questions if you have any. Let me just go with this one. Okay, so let's go with the examples, a couple of examples. Okay, so the first example is kırmızı ışıkta geçmemelisin. Okay, you must not, right? You must not, you mustn't pass, right, on the red light. Negative, right? This is negative form for first person singular. Sen kırmızı ışıkta geçmemelisin, right? So geçmek is to pass. We throw away makmek. Then we have negative me here. Then you have the meli, right? Meli part, which is soft vowel because the previous one was me, right? Memeli, not mamalı, but geçmemeli. And then we have person second person singular, geçmemelisin. Sin, kırmızı ışıkta geçmemelisin. You mustn't pass on the red light. Okay, the second example is like this. I have here ödev yarına kadar bitmeli, which means the homework, right? The homework is a third person singular, right? The homework should be done or must be finished, whatever you can translate. It's based on the context, right? The homework should be finished, right, by tomorrow. Yarına kadar, until tomorrow or by tomorrow, whatever you called. Kadar means by or until, okay, by tomorrow. The homework should be finished by tomorrow. Ödev yarına kadar bitmeli. Okay. This is example where you have both meanings. Kind of you may say it's a must, or you may say it's a should, kind of some kind of advice, depending on the context, of course. The third example, let's go with the advice version of the use. Bu filmi izlemelisin, right? You must watch this movie. Or you should watch this movie, right? Bu filmi izlemelisin. You should watch this movie. İzlemeli, and again it's the second person singular, right? Bu filmi izlemelisin. What about this one? When you, for example, talk about the probability of something, right? For example, in English you may say, you must have watched this movie, right? You must have watched this movie. How do you say this? Let's repeat the following one, sorry, the one above. Bu filmi izlemiş olmalısın. Okay, izlemiş, let me just transform it. Okay. Bu filmi izlemiş olmalısın. You see, same as in English, you must, we use the must have watched, right? Must you. The only thing is what is different is the structure here. You must have watched this movie. Okay, this is about probability. We talk about probability. Bu filmi izlemiş olmalısın. So what do we have here as a structure? İzlemiş is having watched, right? Having watched, and olmalısın is to be. So in Turkish we basically say that you must be in the position that you have watched this movie, right? That's why we say bu filmi izlemiş olmalısın. You have to be, right? You must be in a situation that you have watched this. That's basically what you say in Turkish language. That's how basically you say it. Bu filmi izlemiş olmalısın. You must have watched this movie. Okay. Let's get a couple of more examples. Okay, let me find good ones. düzenli ders çalışmalıyım. Okay, çalışmalıyım. What does it mean? I have to regularly study, right? My lessons, basically. Ders çalışmalıyım. I must or I have to, it depends on whatever you want to mean. I must or have to study regularly. Okay. Ders çalışmak is basically what we mean. Ders çalışmak is to study lessons, right? To study lessons. Study lessons. Okay. Düzenli ders çalışmalıyım. So what's the verb here? Çalışmak, right? Çalışmak. Then we add what? Only it's affirmative case, so we have to add either malı or meli. And because the last vowel here is çalış, we have to add malı, right? Çalışmalı. And then we add the personal ending yım. Çalışmalıyım. Düzenli ders çalışmalıyım. Okay. And then let's look at the question. Okay, example of question. Soğuk su içmemeli miyim? İçmemeli miyim? Okay. Soğuk su içmemeli miyim? So mustn't I or should I basically avoid? Shouldn't I drink, right? Shouldn't. We can also say mustn't I, right? Shouldn't I drink cold water? Soğuk su içmemeli miyim? So what do we have here? İçmek is to drink, right? The verb root is iç. Then we have to ask negation, right? İçme, mame, içme, right? Then we add the negation me. Then we add malı meli, which is of course meli because it's soft. A is followed by a, right? İçmemeli. You made negation, and now we have to ask. Make the question. İçmemeli. We only had m or me, therefore it will be of course soft vowel me, right? And then the person, first person singular yim. Soğuk su içmemeli miyim? Shouldn't I drink cold water? Okay. Okay. What about just interrogative? Bugün işe gitmeli misin? Bugün işe gitmeli misin? Okay. Do you have to go to work today? Bugün işe gitmeli misin? Right? Gitmeli misin? Remember this first structure, the first part gitmeli is stable, gitmek, and then you add malı meli. So gitmeli misin, gitmeli miyiz, gitmeli miyim, right? So the first part in the interrogative is stable, and you only change the question part. Bugün işe gitmeli misin? Do you have to go to work today? Okay. Let's get more examples. Okay. Let's make it again affirmative. Her sabah, let me also cancel the spell check. Her sabah 7'de kalkmalıyım. Kalkmalıyım, right? Her sabah, Her sabah 7'de kalkmalıyım. I have to get up at 7, right? At 7 every morning. So, kalkmak is to get up, right? To stand up, to get up. Kalkmak, so we have the root kalk. Then we have malı, because of the hard vowel. A. Kalkmalı. And then the first person singular ending yım. Her sabah 7'de kalkmalıyım. I have to get up at 7 every morning. Okay. Let's make this one. You should not delay breakfast. Kahvaltıyı, okay, kahvaltıyı geciktirmemelisin. Okay, this is a bit difficult probably for you, right? So what is the verb here? The verb here is geciktirmek. Geciktirmek, okay? Geciktirmek means to delay, to postpone. Geciktirmek. So what do we have here? Düzenli means regular, visual. Düzenli means regular. Don't I have it here as translated? Let me see it. Yes, it's at the end. You see it regularly. I have to study lessons regularly. Düzenli means regularly. Okay. So for kahvaltıyı geciktirmemelisin. Geciktirmek means to delay, to postpone. Then we add negative one. If you want to say, let me just first write the English one, right? You shouldn't delay the breakfast, which means don't make the breakfast late, okay? Very late. Don't have your breakfast very late, okay? Kahvaltı, so geciktirmek is geciktir is the root here, geciktir. Then we have negative, right? Don't, which means geciktirme. And then we have to say meli, right? Geciktirmemeli. And the first person singular, geciktirmemelisin. You shouldn't delay the breakfast, which means basically you should not have your breakfast late. Gilad says meli is the must-should term. Sorry, I came late. Yes, exactly. Probably came a bit late. So Gilad, basically, let me open that one. Where did we mention? I think it's here. Okay, let me just open that image where we had those notes. Not this one. This one, you see? So meli basically means necessitative mood. Meli means must, have to, need to, or should in Turkish. Okay, you can use them interchangeably depending on the context, of course. From the context, everyone understands whether you say it's a must or should or have to or need to. Okay, it is mostly understood from the context, same as in English. Whether you order somebody that you must do it or you mustn't do it, or whether you advise people to do something or not, that's understood from the context. But in Turkish, it is malı or meli. Okay, it's one structure, malı meli. All right, let's look at the two more examples before we finish. Let me find good sentences for you. Okay. Rica ederim Gilad. You're welcome. So, let's do this one. Suyu israf etmemelisin. Etmemelisiniz. Okay, let's make it second plural. Okay, which means what? İsraf etmek. Let me just first write the English word. You must not. Okay, you mustn't waste water. Okay, here suyu, of course, is in the accusative case. Even if we know kind of that's basically how we say. Okay, you should not waste the water. We use here the accusative case, adding the ending u and the fusion letter ye in between. Okay, suyu, not suyu, but suyu. You mustn't waste water. You mustn't waste water. So israf etmek is a compound verb. Okay, israf etmek. Let me write in parentheses here. İsraf etmek is to waste. Okay, to waste. And of course, when we change the verb, we have to work with what? With the etmek, right? Etmek. The etmek verb, that's the verb. So that's why we change etmemelisiniz. So etmek, and then we have the root is etmek, et, right? Etmek, et. And then we have negative, me, etme. Then you have meli, which means you mustn't, right? Etmemeli. And siniz means second person plural. Suyu israf etmemelisiniz. You mustn't waste water. And last example. Okay. Yumurta. Well, let's not go with yumurta. Something else. Okay, I found one. Kahvaltı saat 8'de hazır olmalı. Okay, which means the breakfast should be or must be, right? Basically should, I think it should be is better. Should be ready. Must or should be. Let me just write both of them depending on the context. The breakfast must or should be ready at 8. Okay. 8'de. Kahvaltı saat 8'de hazır olmalı. You see, we work here with which verb? Verb to be, right? Olmak. This is the verb, our verb. Olmak, to be. Therefore, we talk about the third person singular, right? Third person singular. We talk about kahvaltı, the breakfast. And the breakfast, of course, is third person singular. So we work on the verb olmak. The root is ol. And we have only what? This is affirmative case, only malı. Olmalı. Okay? It has to be ready at 8. The breakfast has to be ready at 8. Olmalı. Or you can say we have to be ready at 8. Okay? Biz saat 8'de hazır olmalıyız. Right? If you say we have to be ready at 8. Let's write that one. Okay? Saat 8'de hazır olmalıyız. You don't have to use, of course, biz because it's already implied in olmalıyız. Saat 8'de hazır olmalıyız. Right? We have to be ready at 8. Saat 8'de hazır olmalıyız. Don't forget again, we work here on the verb to be, okay? Saat 8'de hazır olmalıyız. That's basically it. I have a couple of more examples, so we have already enough examples. I think it should be clear by now. So basically, to summarize, we covered necessitative mood today, which is basically Gereklilik Kipi in Turkish language. And this mood usually means what? Must, have to, need to, or should. Okay, malı meli. We basically add two endings, malı meli, and we already worked on the affirmative, negative, interrogative, and negative interrogative cases. If you have any questions, of course, you can address them now or later in the comments section under the video. I hope you enjoyed the class, and next time we will cover what? Next time we will cover, just before we kind of adjourn the meeting, the class, next time we will cover the conditional mood. Conditional mood is what? Erica wrote, geç kalmamalıydım ama maalesef öyle oldu. Yes, that's fine. You can watch it afterwards. So, hoş geldin Erica. Seni görmedim, üzüldüm. You usually are here at these times, right? So this time you missed it. That's fine. So next time we will cover conditional mood. Conditional mood is what? When you say if, right? If, that's conditional mood. And we have, of course, again, very simple endings here. So I'll probably see you then on Thursday. Okay, on Thursday we will cover conditional mood. Hope to see you all then. See you then on Thursday. Have a nice day. Görüşmek üzere. Bye bye. You're welcome, Fabiola.